Exceptions. I came here for the wrong reasons. No way I'm gonna find my fiance on the other side without seeing her physically.
Yeah.
AD, I shot myself in the mouth so many times, baby. I said, girl, if you don't show me what you look like, there ain't no way I'm proposing. In terms of my decision at the altar, in hindsight, I do regret.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. We're giving you guys a special live talking about obviously AD and Clay. I promised you I'll go much deeper. This one is a deep one. I'm just going to tell you straight, I 100%. Listen, you may be rearranging your relationship after this. Right? You may be rearranging your relationship after this. Because I intend to go really deep with what I've just kind of been simmering on and kind of just been sitting on in regards to AD and Clay. Now, AD and Clay are really, I want to say close to me because I see myself in both parties. The healer and the person who takes advantage of the healer. At one point in my life, I was the healer. I healed people. I wanted to be around them. I wanted to save them. I wanted to be with a God complex, and they're trying to be the one that helps them get over something. And I've also been the person who has been in a situation where you've been the healer in my life, and I've taken advantage of your healing, and I've made you my rehabilitation center. And actually, that's the final line I want to rest upon. What Clay is experiencing, from my experience, what I'm seeing with Clay and AD, he says that's the love of his life. And I want to challenge that. Now, I don't know what's in his mind. I may be wrong. But I'm going to challenge that simply based on some of the statements that he's actually made about AD. In my estimation, from what I'm hearing and from what I've been through, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit as well, but I'll break down some quintessential terms and some things about emotional connection within that space, just to give you a bit of an idea. It sounds like, to me, when I'm hearing Clay talk, that he's dealing with a rehabilitation center. It takes two to tango. When you're someone like Clay, you can end up meeting someone like AD who ends up being a rehabilitation center for you, where you're able to trust that person so much that they build a man. Not build you up. They build a man. See, when you're in a relationship, it shouldn't be a rehabilitation center. When you're in a relationship, it should be 50-50 reciprocation where we give and take. Now, of course, that changes and differs at different times of a relationship. But if at the very beginning of your relationship, the person's consistently giving to you and you're consistently taking, you're already in the wrong type of relationship. In what we're seeing with what AD and Clay are talking about, in this moment, unfortunately, AD was building a man, not building him up. And what that means is this, is that when you end up becoming somebody who fluffs the pillow for somebody else, like, so that person's telling you they don't want you. The person's telling you, I don't want a relationship. I don't want to go to the altar with you. They were telling you, and AD told us this herself. She said he was telling her several times in their conversations, he didn't want to go to the altar, which means you knew. So listen to his words one more time, okay, before we get this conversation started, because I'm going to break some stuff down. But listen to his words one more time. Listen to what he says in these moments, okay? Just listen to what he says here. Listen to what he says here.
He really taught me how to build an emotional connection. So I think that biggest misconception is I came here for the wrong reasons. And AD really taught me how to build an emotional connection. So I think that biggest misconception is I came here for the wrong reasons.
Boom. Okay, the fact that he tells us that AD helped him build an emotional connection is where I'm going to start this conversation off. An emotional connection in any relationship is quintessential for the relationship to survive long term. An emotional connection is quintessential, okay, to how a relationship can exist long term. Okay, all right. Imagine a ship and an anchor. The emotional connection, it becomes the anchor for the ship, so it stays in one place. If you don't have an emotional connection, guess what happens to the ship? It begins to drift. And many a times people are in relationships where they are drifting. You know why? Because you have little or no emotional connections. Okay, so this is also a really important part of the relationship when it comes to men and women. And I titled this video to be a little bit more triggering, to say, yes, do black men know how to love, or do black men know how to be in love? Yes, it's to try and get people enticed to come to the conversation. But this goes across the board. Okay, and I'm going to do a part 2 when I speak about AD and I speak about Clay a little bit later on. So today's video, what we're talking about today, okay, all right, we're going to talk about why I don't feel like that AD necessarily is the love of Clay's life. I'm going to talk a little bit about emotional connection. I'm going to talk about why emotional connection is the bedrock of relationships. We're going to talk about brokenness, the facade of an emotional connection, and the destructive behaviors that it leads to. We're going to talk about behavior issues that that lead on from not having an emotional connection with self and with others in a relationship. And then we're going to break down some other terms around that for you today. So if you're new to the channel, I want you guys to be locked and to be loaded. You know what I'm about to do. It's about to get carnage. Okay, we're about to get deep in this situation. We're going to break some things. And I promise you now, if you are in a relationship, this is going to shake you a little bit, okay? It's going to make you want to reconsider. Not reconsider the relationship, but to actually analyze what kind of relationship are you in, right? Because my final point before I get into my intro, and I say my intro, but I get into my, do the little video that plays, whatever, is to say that when it comes to a relationship, many people, specifically, I want to talk more about women, are willing to accept relationships that have little to no emotional connection, simply because they are willing to have a body in that relationship. Now, men do this too, so let's not make it only women. But I'm talking about, because we are talking about Clay and AD. A lot of times, women are happy to stay in a relationship simply because they have a body in the relationship, yet they are engaging with a dead body. And what I mean by that is the person, what makes a relationship alive is the emotional connection. When there is a lack of emotional connection, the person is oftentimes dead or dying. And in a relationship, people stay in those places so they don't feel lonely and alone, which I totally get. We've all been there. We've all done it, right? So we're going to break some stuff down. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor, like it, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys if you're joining. If you haven't joined the membership as well, please do join the membership. It's £1, it's $1. It just means that you can be part of the lives when we do them. Because this live, in about 10 minutes, I'm gonna go members only who can comment as well. And so we just want to have the family together. So we have this conversation on here, right? But let's get into the little intro, and we'll talk about that. You know what time it is. Time it is. Time it is. Time it is. Alrighty, cool. Let's talk about this. Okay, so the part that I wanted to come into is AD and Clay, right? We've seen them on Love Is Blind. We've seen the relationship that they've actually come into. We've seen what's actually happened over time. Let me make it very, very clear and distinct what's happening here. Clay has told her that she is the love of his life, and that he got taught how to have an emotional connection by AD, not by AD. I'm going to play the clip again one more time so you just hear it. If I heard it correctly, I hope I'm not misquoting him, because sometimes I'll be misquoting. Let me just hear it one more time.
I really came to this process really looking for the physical, and AD really taught me how to build an emotional connection. So I think that biggest misconception is I came here for the wrong reasons. You know what?
Let's pause it right there, okay? All right. First, he tells us, listen, I want to be honest with you. I came into this process, okay, and AD taught me how to have an emotional connection. Do you know why she taught him? Because when he went on the show, he never had an emotional connection with self first. In order to give somebody an emotional connection, you need to have an emotional connection with yourself first. What does an emotional connection mean? Emotional connection simply means that you're able to identify and be able to voice and be able to describe how you feel, what your needs are, what your wants are, what you value, what are your desires. Right? That is emotional connection to self, being able to describe those feelings and those thoughts that you have emotionally. So you're talking about your emotions and talking about your ability to talking about your wants, your needs, your desires, and you're able to articulate that in some shape or form, right? And this is where, if you have a relationship with self, you're emotionally intelligent and self-aware. Now we know Clay's self-aware, very much so. Very self-aware. Does he have the emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence in this aspect is a knowledge, an understanding of your emotions, right? And being able to understand when to apply knowledge or wisdom about your emotions, or how to react in a situation emotionally, how to regulate yourself in a particular way. There's an intelligence to how you deal with emotions. And what we're seeing with Clay, what I'm seeing with Clay here is, I don't think there is much of an emotional connection. And as he said himself, he got taught by AD, which means you wouldn't have had an emotional connection with yourself. Because if somebody else is teaching you in that moment, you didn't have it in the first place. which means we have to go all the way back to where this actually started. This is where we start talking about the root cause of an issue. The root cause meaning, where did this actually begin? What is the origin of the fact that you don't have the ability to have an emotional connection? Why am I talking about emotional connections? Because once again, relationships are built on the bedrock of what? Emotional connection. The ability to connect to somebody emotionally. Now I'm going to give you some things quickly here. Let's shake the room a little bit. Let's shake the room a little bit. Okay. So I want to see my screen. And I want to see if I can do this for you guys. So hold on. I'm going to put this on a screen so you guys can see this. Here we go. Fantastic. Here we go. Once upon a time, not long ago. All right. So here we go. This is my notes. Okay. And I'm going to show you something. All right. So here's my notes. All right, fantastic. I'm in a situation. Okay, so in my notes, I got 12 ways of emotionally connecting with your partner. Okay, 12 ways of emotionally connecting with your partner. This is why I meant when I said I'm going to shake the room a little bit, because I want you to be able to understand, do we have these connections in my relationship? Because if you don't, we gonna have a problem. Okay, number one, okay, is care about others' needs and desires. Number two, you're able to share openly your emotions. Number three, you are able to listen actively, meaning you can listen and they can listen to you actively. They actually pay attention to you. Okay. Number four, you know each other deeply. You give parts of yourself that you wouldn't give others. Number five, interested in the likes and hobbies, not just the ones that you like, but you're interested in your partner's likes and hobbies that you don't even like. You don't like it, but you like it because you know what? He likes it or she likes it. So I'm going to like it. I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to spend time doing your activity or your hobby that I may not like, but I do it because you like it, right? Number six, it's all about the details. Number seven, judgment-free zone, okay? Number eight, let me explain that. Number six is all about the details, meaning your day-to-day, the mundane, your just your everyday little thoughts, like you were thinking about, today I went to the shop and I bought a chocolate bar, and you're able to tell your partner that. It doesn't mean anything, but you're sharing the little details and your partner is interested and intrigued by it. Number seven is judgment-free zone. Can that person create a safe space for you to be able to say how you feel? Now, when I say how you feel, let me give an example. We spoke about this on this channel before. An example would be like, for instance, your partner coming to you and telling you, hey, it's been really hard at work today. I've been suffering. And the first thing you do is try to offer a conclusion or a judgment or a solution to the problem. That is not a judgment-free zone. In that case, you are beginning to make a judgment. The person hasn't asked you for a solution yet. When you provide a solution in that zone, you're not making it a judgment-free zone. Judgment-free zone should be really called a validation zone, meaning let me validate you and how you feel. Number 8, silver lining to conflict. Can you have conflict? Can you guys fight? Can you guys argue? And there's a silver lining to the argument that actually happens, meaning you're learning. You're like, do you know what? I know we just argued about that situation, but I just grew. Like, I can actually take it constructively. Wow. I actually understood something in that argument, and I've grown in some understanding and some wisdom. Or are you guys arguing and getting to a point where you don't want to be in that space no more? You don't want to see them, hear them, smell them, taste them. I don't want to know who you are. Okay, all right, yeah. Number 9, they are sympathetic to your experiences. So when you go through certain things, are they going to join you in your experience? Let me tell you something. I've seen some relationships, man, and I've been in some. And I've been in some to a point where the person will tell you they're going through something, and you don't really care enough to want to actually be in the same experience that they're having. Let me give you an example. Let's say you come to me and say your phone's broken, right? Now, what I would do in my now phase of myself is like, hey, babe, your phone's broken. Do you want me to go with you to the shop to go and fix it or whatever? Like, what do you want me to do with you, right? I'm going to involve myself in you and say, I'm with you in the situation. When I was younger, that would not have been it. Your phone's broken. Go and fix it. Because I was very independent and I expected you to be independent. But what I started to realize is we are interdependent beings. We need each other. Independence is good, but you need to be interdependent. And so in the situation, do you sympathize with their experiences? When your partner brings an experience to you, can you join them in it? Or are you going to say, you got to handle it? Now, if they tell you they want to handle it themselves, that's different. But are you just going to be like, well, just handle it yourself. You got it. right? Number 10, 50-50 partnership and effort. This is not about the bills. Okay, because I know some of you are going to jump on that. You're going to be like, it's the bills. It's not the bills. 50-50 in a partnership simply means in effort. Do you feel like the person is giving as much as you're giving? Now, many of you have been in relationships, I myself included, where you've given way too much and the person isn't giving the same back. Can we see the same with Clay and AD? Partly because you can see that how Clay is always saying about how much he has actually received from AD. He's always telling us how much he's improved because of AD. Can AD say the same? No, because they played two different roles. And because she was playing the healer role, she ended up playing a role where she was giving far too much, and now she's burnt at the very end. And when I do part 2 for AD needs to take a full-on accountability. I don't want to hear any more from AD talking about that man played me. He didn't play you. Can we be real? Right? AD didn't get played by Clay. No. AD needs to take accountability and own her ish, because she was in it giving and the person wasn't giving back, and the person was telling you the truth. Number 11, you feel seen and understood. Now, this is, Dorika just said it herself, is so important. Let me tell you why this is important. Whilst I was on the streets, I was on those streets, and I was out there in the streets. I did some things that I shouldn't have been doing. I saw people's partners that I shouldn't really be seeing. Let me be honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you. I keep it a buck and help and trail. The last 3 years have been a bit crazy. What I encountered, specifically people that are in relationships that were at the end, or they're about to leave, or they just broken up. One of the things that was really, what was always a theme, was being seen, being heard, and being understood. This is a bedrock of emotional connection. A lot of times when it comes to women, and I really want to get men on this, and I want them to understand this, because we keep crying that women keep divorcing us at 70% divorce rate, because a lot of times we're not focusing on what's actually happening in a relationship. It's just that women just get divorced. My brother, while I believe that women while I believe women are getting divorced, and let's say, women initiate 70% of divorces and they just get out of these situations, I want to be honest with you, right? There's a formula that works here, yeah? And you can't ignore the formula. And if you followed me long enough, I've been saying this for years upon years, that when it comes to a relationship, if you ignore the emotional aspect, you are asking for trouble. If you think you can provide the bills and only the bills, you are going to have some issues. Yeah? Okay, we know there's going to be issues in the relationship simply because you don't consider emotional connection being important. We're on number 11, by the way, of emotional connections, of what's needed in relationship. We're going to get to number 12, okay? Number 12, you know yourself well, okay? You know yourself well. Number 12 leads into number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, number 12 leads into number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? Why? Because it's the beginning. Knowing oneself is the beginning of formulating that emotional connection with others. Do you know what the problem is in a lot of the relationships? We're going to talk about this now. Emotional neglect. I'm going to kind of take a sidetrack because we're talking about Clay and AD still. But emotional neglect is a big thing. And emotional neglect doesn't look like physical neglect in the same way, because it's not always evident. It's a slow poison that begins to seep into the relationship. But the reality is, people that emotionally neglect their partners most times started off that way. Right? And let me just say that honestly. Most people that emotionally are neglectful over a period of time start off that way. Right? Let's look at it from a child neglect situation, right? Many of us have gone through child neglect. We don't even know that, right? Many of us have gone through child neglect. We have been neglected as children in our youth. Our parents didn't care about your emotions. They didn't care about how you felt. They didn't honor how you felt. They didn't validate how you felt. They didn't acknowledge how you felt. They didn't accept how you felt. They don't care. So long as they put a roof over your head and some food in your tummy and some clothes on your back, and you know that I'm saying that because you've heard this line before, as black people, we know, okay, they felt they did their job. They felt like they did their job. Okay? And in this aspect, they've emotionally neglected you if you never felt you were acknowledged for your feelings. Your emotions were never taken into consideration, right? Your emotions were never accepted. You were never heard. You were never seen. You were never understood. So many children will come out of those homes, especially two-parent homes, will come out of two-parent home and have the security physically, but then never have the emotional physicality. Sorry, the emotional safety. And so they end up making really bad partners later on because they're like, wait, I saw my parents have a really good relationship. Why am I not having the same relationship? Because you didn't realize that you were emotionally neglected as a kid. Right? You were emotionally neglected. Your emotions didn't matter. Your emotions weren't taken into considerations. You weren't acknowledged and you weren't appreciated. I think there's 4 A's when it comes to even talking about our feelings, which is acknowledgement, acceptance. What's the other 3? There's 2 more. And I have to find it for you because it's in my other note. It's not in this one. But there's like 4 A's to when it comes to acknowledging, affirming, allowing them to feel understood, and acceptance. So when someone wants to validate your feelings, we're talking about acknowledging them, affirming them, allowing them to feel, and accepting them. Let me give you an example. So acknowledging, I see that you're feeling a little bit down. What's going on with you? And the person says, I'm feeling down because, you know what, Dad, Mom, I've just been feeling like, I haven't really been, things are not going well in my life. Person like, you know what? I totally understand how you feel that things are not going right in your life. And you can feel sad. That's me affirming you, right? And then in that affirming, the person starts to feel understood. Okay, so tell me a bit more. What's going on with you? Help me understand a bit more. Person starts speaking about how they feel. They're listening to you. They're giving you verbal and non-verbal cues that they're listening to you. They're starting to feel understood. And then at the end of the conversation, what happens? You start to feel accepted. Why? Because the person took time. They did not neglect you in that moment. And in relationships, this is one of the hardest things that happens because people don't take time. Right? Do you know why you feel lonely and feel alone in your relationship, even though they're right next to you? Because you don't feel emotionally connected. Do you know why you don't feel seen and heard in your relationship, even when they're looking at you? Because you don't feel seen and heard. Because you feel neglected. You know what I mean? There's no emotional connection. Right? So I'm talking about the root cause. But the root finds itself in the fruit that it bears. Right? The fruit that it bears is a relation to the root that it's in. The origin of that child becomes an adult. The tree doesn't become a tree overnight. It became a tree because it started as a seed. And so whatever happens to that seed in the ground as it's growing and formulating nutrients, it becomes a certain type of tree. And then it begins to bear fruit. That person you're seeing right now, the partner that you have right now, is as a result of their roots. But guess what? You can't fix their roots. This is where the issue is going to come with Clay and AD, and why I appreciate Clay doing the work. AD can't fix the roots. She can highlight the roots are sick. She can highlight that the roots need some treatment, but she cannot fix the root. The root has to be rooted out by the individual themselves. They have to want to uproot the roots that they have already in order to lay down new roots. They need to treat the roots, go back to their origin of the start of where this came from and start tackling certain issues. And that's where the dad's going to come into a situation. We're going to talk about the dad in a second or two, right? We're going to talk about the dad in a second or two. We're going to break him down and we're going to have a discussion about him because that's another situation in itself. We got to talk about how the root is also affecting now the current child in this moment, right? That, Clay talks about how his father didn't apologize. But I understand how my dad is. Do you? Do you? Your father won't apologize. Do you know how mad it is that the father still wouldn't apologize? He was on talking about this on the reunion. I was like, your dad still hasn't apologized after watching the show back? Still hasn't given you an apology? Do you know how nuts that is? No. Do you know how crazy that is? That even after watching the video back, his dad still cannot apologize because there's so much pride, so much arrogance, and so much independence, and someone said stubbornness. There is a lack of self-awareness. Luckily for Clay, he's got some self-awareness, which means he can do the work and he can start to bring change to the situation. Okay, all right. So let's get deeper. Okay, let's get deeper into this, man. Let's get deeper into this. Let me get some more of my notes into this as well, because there's some. I want to break this. I want to break this even further down. And so yes, I'm going to go back to my notes here just so you can have a look at what I'm saying. So 4 don'ts that lead by neglectful relationship. By the way, this is a great work. I was on it. I'll put a link in the chat. Some of the links that I had used to kind of bring these notes to life. I'll put it in the chat. One of them. Great work by this young lady as well. She put some great notes, and I was just taking them and breaking them down. When you're in a relationship that is neglectful, okay? When you're in a relationship that is neglectful, you don't notice that feelings are not being discussed. They're not being acknowledged. They're not being affirmed. When you're in a relationship that's neglectful, okay, you don't ask about feelings. When you're in a relationship that's neglectful, you don't connect on an emotional level. When you're in a relationship that's not neglectful, you don't feel that your feelings are validated enough. You are in a neglectful relationship. Those things are going to happen. Your feelings aren't going to be taken into consideration. And the reason why your feelings aren't going to be taken into consideration is simply put because the person who you're dealing with, you've been dealing with them on a facade level. Let's go there. Let's go to that point. Let me go to my notes and we're going a little bit deeper. Okay. All right. Let me go into my notes about facades. I hope I put this in the right place because my notes were all over because I was like, yo, it's a lot to deal with. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Fantastic. The facade. Yes. Okay. Cool. I think there we go. Okay, cool. So the facade. Okay. The facade. The reason why AD and Clay are a mirror of each other, and I said this on another podcast, is because when you look at how this works, Clay is got a facade of the emotional aspect, right? And what AD is trying to heal and take off his mask. In order to have an emotional connection, there needs to be authenticity, humility, honesty. There needs to be a vulnerability, right? And so what happens is someone like AD, who's a quote unquote healer. If you're a healer, you listen to me very carefully. If you know you're somebody who ends up in relationships to heal people, you need to pay attention to this part because it's really important. You are buying into the story. But what you don't realize is the broken person telling the story that you're buying into, they can replace you with any other actor because it's not about you. Let me say what I'm going to say, and I'm going to bring it to a halt and bring it round. AD buys into the story of, if I heal him, then that will give me some significance. That will give me, that will make me be seen, heard. I'll be made to feel special because I've rewritten history. The problem with this story is this, that the person who's oftentimes doing the emotional neglect, and by emotional neglect, what I mean by this is the inability to be able to respond to your emotional needs and wants. Let me say it again. The emotional neglect is the inability to be able to respond to your emotional needs and wants and desires. The person, let me take me for example, right? Let's just say, we can take Clay, myself, whatever. In this situation with Clay and AD, what's going to happen is Clay being broken in the area of emotional connection. He hasn't connected with himself, so he can't be connected with you. He's gonna tell you a story. The story that he told us was what? He kept on telling us a beautiful story. I'm in relationships, but people don't understand me. People don't get me. I've not been able to be in a relationship with somebody where I've been able to love them appropriately. I've been in relationships where I've not been able to, be able to give my heart over. I've never really fully loved somebody. He gonna tell you the narrative. Guess what's gonna happen? You're going to buy the narrative. And I know this because this is me. And I'm telling you what AD, and I can't wait to do part 2 because it's going to really highlight some things. Because someone was asking me about why I believe that AD is got an ego. It's because the healer has an ego. The ego of the healer is, look at the story. I can work with the story and I can be the hero of this story. The problem is the emotional, neglectful person who hasn't got an emotional connection with themselves first is that they don't care who plays the actor in their story, who's going to be the hero. They don't care. So it's not an authentic connection because it's a facade, it's a story, it's a novel, it's a movie, and they don't care who plays that role. And when I say I don't care, what I really mean is, what I really mean by that is not everyone can play that particular role. There's specifications for that role that you have to play that role, right? And I'll talk about it in a second. And so what happens is a person ends up buying into the movie and the story and saying how they can be a hero. The emotional neglectful person is like, well, since you want to be the star of the show, let me put you on a platform. Since you want to be the star of the show, let me put you on a platform. Okay, and so now what you're gonna realize with Clay and AD is gonna play the hero, Clay gonna play the damsel in distress. I need help. Help! I'm in the tower. I'm stuck. Help me! Come and save me! I need help, baby. Anybody out there? AD, save me. So they're going to start playing a damsel in distress. And what happens is the damsel in distress is a call out to the person who wants to play the hero. And the hero's like, I see it now. This is a job for me. I know this because I've done this before. So I've done it several times. I know, right? And they get invested in the story going to save the damsel in distress in the tower. And they think it's a Disney story. So if I save you in the tower, what happens to the princesses that get rescued, please? What happens to the princesses when they get rescued? What happens to the relationship do we see in Disney? The story is when you save the princess is everlastingly so appreciative of you that they fall in love with you and they're like, ah, my prince, you've saved me. I love you. We are going to be happily ever after. And in reality, what the realness of that story is, just like the Matrix, when they finally realize that, that they are in the Matrix and Babylon and Zion looks different to how they looked like when they were in the Matrix, then when the rug is ripped out from underneath your feet, you're going to realize you've got a God complex. Oh, you know what? Let me not go too far because this for next week, this for tomorrow. I don't want to go too far. But it's for tomorrow. I don't want to go too deep, but let me just say it. The healer has a God complex. Many of us have a God complex. Or, and let's just say, better said, a Superman complex. Our hopes is if we play the hero and we save the person who needs saving, then they will love us. They will put us on a pedestal. They will appreciate us. They will surround us with the affections and the validations that we've been craving since a kid. They will give us the attention, the affirmation. They will give us the love that we craved. I'm telling you somebody who's done this. And there was something that happened to me. This is why I was actually these notes came to me yesterday as I started off with my own notes and I was making notes and I was talking with the Lord and the Lord was just downloading things to me, He was just downloading. I was like, yo, he's really downloading some stuff to me. And one of the things he downloaded to me is this attitude, okay, of wanting to have what we call penal substitution. In Christendom, we call it penal substitution, which means when Jesus went on to die on the cross, okay, when he died on the cross, he became the lamb, the sacrificial lamb, to die on the cross so that mankind could have everlasting life should they reconcile with man. A little bit of gospel for you, okay? And it's penal substitution. The hero, right, dies so that everyone else can have eternal life. And what happens is a lot of times in relationships, the healer feels like if they die and sacrifice themselves, become a seed that goes into the ground and they can begin to germinate, they'll suddenly reap the rewards of their death and their sacrifice in the relationship. But the reality is, just like God, people don't accept God. People don't even accept Christ's sacrifice. There are so many people in this world that don't even care for Jesus' sacrifice. Oh, you died on the cross? And what? Did I tell you to die on the cross for me? Did I tell you to die on the cross for me? And we're not God. So God deciding to do that is God's prerogative. He's all knowing, all powerful, all loving, all caring. He can do that. You're not. You are limited in scope. So when you start to try and play that same role, you are in essentially saying that you got a God complex. You are trying to play God. And I know I've done it several times. I'm telling you from the truest heart of myself, I've done it several times. So I know what it sounds like, and I know what it smells like, and I know what it looks like. It is, you are trying to play God. Because in a sense, what you're saying is, I have the ability to change you, shift you, move you, mold you, make you brand new. But the Bible says this, that one, and it's so funny, one waters, one plants, but it's only God that brings the increase. What does that mean? It means no matter what you do, no matter what I do, I can plant, I can insert ideas to you. I can come in and I can water what's already there, but I cannot cause the plant to grow. Just because you know how a plant grows doesn't mean you cause the plant to grow. You are only existing on a system that's already built by God. You can't cause a man or a woman to grow. What I mean by that is the person must be ready to accept that, and that's between them and God. Better yet, someone might say between themselves, right? Because God is in, that's what someone might say, right? You start playing that role because you think that you can help them grow. And I'm not saying that people don't grow. Let me make it very clear. Growth and change are two different things. You get what I'm saying to you, right? We all grow. In every situation, you're going to grow, whether it's bad or good. But you can't cause this monumental shift and change of a person. They must want it themselves. You can't save them. You know, someone said it to me recently, and I was like, no, I'm not trying to do that. And I was like, no, fucking no. You're right. No. Someone said it to me recently. You're trying to save me. And I was like, you know what? No. I'm not. And then God had to just be like, no, you are. Yeah, you are. Get out of the freaking way. Because you ain't building them up. You're trying to build them for you. Two different things. You are trying to build them for you. You're not building them up. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? All right, cool. Let me get back to what I'm talking about. Because we gonna go deep. Like I said, we're going to go deep. Okay? We're going to go deep. I got sidetracked a little bit with the AD situation because it's not about AD today. It's about Clay. We need to talk about Clay. Okay? We need to talk about Clay. All right? Now, my thing is this. Many men have been fooled by this emotional connection principle. Let me go to it, okay? These three things here. Women have been fooled by men who exhibit these three things, or should I rather say participate in these three things of emotional connection. Number 11, number 7, and number 4. Okay? Number 11, number 7, and number 4. Let me go to what they are. I'm going to show you what they are. Okay, I'm going to show you what they are. Clay, okay, like a lot of men who are not emotionally connected, use women as rehabilitation centers. And let me give you a little clip. I'm going to show you something. I want to play this clip. Hopefully I got the right one. Oh my God. It's a way for your mercies and your grace shall be saved. All right, cool. Let me get my clip here. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, I've got a clip. Okay. So, in this clip, this is Tamron Hall interview. Okay. I went to watch it. And it was interesting. Okay. That once again, like I said, Clay's already told us that, you know, he's been taught how to have an emotional connection. But what's interesting is what even his mum says. I want you to pay attention to this. Even his mum doesn't realize, even his mom doesn't realize what's happened here. Okay? So let me put this here. Okay. Here we go. There we go.
He needed some help in the love lane.
Absolutely.
What was your hope for him to come on that show? And what did you want him to find?
I wanted him to find someone who would be able to take care of him and to also to just see him as I see him, because I knew that he was a great provider and he has a great heart. And I wanted...
Now let's pause it right there. The mum unwittingly started to prophesy. She doesn't even realize. Okay? Or I should say call things out. Now, and the reason why this pointed out to me was because something my dad said to me some years ago. It's probably like almost a decade ago. I was having a conversation with my dad one time, and we're talking in the kitchen. I remember exactly where I was. We're talking in the kitchen. And as we were talking, he said to me, you know, one day you're going to make a great husband and a great father. And I said, wait, what? I was like, why did you say that? I said, Dad, why did you say that? He said, I watch how you listen and I see how you move. One day you'll make a great husband and a great father. You know, those moments where he kind of breaks you down. And silently, I was crying inside. I was like, man, why didn't you say more of this stuff? Man, I needed this earlier in my life, man. Why didn't you say this before? Right? And it's interesting, right? He didn't mention nothing about my ability to provide or anything like that. Now, of course, I was a bit more younger, so it's a decade ago, I was 20. But the mother showed something by saying he's a great provider. What does that mean? Why is that important? Because we're not emotionally connecting here. Now, of course, he's got a great heart, great provider. I hear it. But the reality of the situation is his emotional aspect is a problem. He doesn't connect very well. And the mother knew that because she saw how he was. I'm not saying the mother's a problem, by the way. I'm only saying that she may not have seen how deep the problem is. Right? And it's funny because when it was coming on the show, she was like, when the father came along, Clay's dad, and was saying, obviously, he just needs a good woman. She said no, because if you had a good woman, you couldn't even see it. So how now are we saying he just needs a woman that will just take care of him? Well, AD took care of him. He still didn't do what he needed to do. Disconnect, right? Because the reality of the situation is, she has seen her son through the best of lenses, not like her ex-husband. But the reality of the situation is, the reason why he went on that show is because of the mother. Let's go back. All right, let's go back. Let me go slightly back. By the way, I'm not coming at the mum. I'm not getting at the mum. I'm not saying the mum's an issue. I'm only saying what I'm noticing. Just listening.
To tell him.
Let me ask you, because Clay said he went on the show because you told him the way he was handling his dating life, he was moving and grooving, and that was not going to lead to help. That's a nice way to say it. But he needed some help in the love lane.
Absolutely.
What was your hope for?
Let me pause right there. Okay, he was moving and grooving. We know what that means. I don't need to interpret that. Brother was out here in them streets, just like I was a couple of months ago, not even years. So let me not lie to myself. I was out on the streets. Now, when you are out on those streets, it's because you are emotionally devoid. You don't know how to connect emotionally. That's why you're on the streets. You see, it's not about how handsome he is. It's not about him being 6 foot and dark skin and chocolate or whatever way you want to call it. I should probably put a pause on that, but I don't give a heck. Right? It's not about that. Okay? It's not about that at all. It's about the fact that you don't know how to emotionally connect. You see, somebody who is secure in their attachment and has a good emotional connection, once they get into a relation dating field, the need to want to sleep around isn't always an effective way to go about things. You know why? Because they realize they are being devoid emotionally in those aspects. Sex is not free. Sex is an emotional sport. And when the sex is not involving the emotions, it can be a little bit. I'm not saying we can't do it without emotions. I'm just saying, yeah. But I'm talking about the connection aspect of it, right? So when you're out there putting your body on 7 different people, you're not connected with all those people. It actually speaks to your lack of an emotional connection to self. So if he's out there having problems shaking and grooving, what would you think him going on a show would actually do for him? That's why I said she misjudged it, because she doesn't think her son is as bad as her husband. I'm telling you, he's going to follow in the same footsteps if he doesn't be careful. Luckily, he's doing therapy. He's more self-aware. God bless him, right? But the reality of the situation is, him going on the show isn't going to solve the issue, but it does give us an idea of something. It does give us an idea. What is the idea here? The idea here is that when Clay went on the show, he didn't have an ability to emotionally connect. He ended up finding a rehabilitation center. He found AD. He found AD. He found his rehabilitation center. Because reality is, he should have been in therapy before. What his mum should have been telling him, since he listens to his mum, is that he should have been sitting his ass down, getting some therapy, and heal from what your daddy did to you. Because the mum has gone through some. I'm telling you about the cognitive dissonance. Okay, the cognitive dissonance of what's happening here. Because in reality, the mum has gone through her healing phase. We know that because of the way she spoke. Right? We know that because of the way that she spoke about the situation. She showed us that she had grown. The way she addressed her ex-husband. But what she didn't deep is that by sending him out onto the LIB field when he hasn't done the work, was going to contribute towards another woman going in the same situation you were going to be in. But you knew he wasn't ready because you saw him shaking and grooving. And the reason why I say it's important is because he hearkens to the voice of his mother. Do you know the reason? And that's my next point. Reason why Clay is not ready for this love, and he even tells us he's not ready for love because for marriage, right? It's because Clay, the Bible says that Abram, at the point of time, the Lord told Abram, leave your father's home. Abram left his father's home and followed the voice of the Lord. Why is this important? Who is leading you by what voice? Someone said something to me recently and I was taken aback, but I frankly, I was kind of hurt by it, but I was also understood. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? That's fair. You know what? That's fair. And then the person was saying, like, my voice is too strong. And I was like, what does that mean? What does that really mean? And it came to me just as I was doing this video, what that truly meant. What the gravity of that really meant. As I was reading Abram at the time, before he became Abraham, I fully understood what having somebody's voice being too strong actually means. When someone's voice is too strong, it means that now they are overriding your own and you don't have a voice. Meaning your direction, because the Bible says that we walk by faith and not by sight. Listen to this carefully, this equation. We walk by faith, not by sight. But how do you get faith? The Bible tells us in Romans 10 verse 17, faith cometh by hearing the word of God. That would tell you that, listen, how you walk and what actions you take comes from what you hear. So whatever you're hearing is now leading which way you're going to walk. So when I heard that his mother told him to go on the show and he went on it, I was like, why did you just go on it? Because your mother told you to go on it. Well, he told us himself that when it comes to relationships, he doesn't know how to lead. He needs a voice because he doesn't have one in that space. Why? Because he was neglected. His father didn't do the work. His father, in anything, taught him how to win and to be selfish, but didn't teach him how to lead, how to be self-sacrificing, how to love and to care, and how to take care relationally. His father didn't teach him that. And children learn by what they see, not just what they hear. And what you see is still hearing. What I mean by this is this. When you say, oh, I hear you, doesn't mean necessarily I actually hear you. It means I see. I see what you're saying. So in that aspect, okay, what's happening is Clay doesn't have a voice because his mum is the voice that he listens to because that's where he feels safest. That's where he feels safest. And when young men don't have an effective voice, oftentimes a fatherly figure, a father voice, they seek for a stronger authoritative voice that will speak to them that they can follow. You know what? I was reading the Bible today. I don't want to preach, but I'm going to preach because the good Lord is working. I was reading something today. And as I was reading, I was talking about why is it they said Jesus is authoritative? Because what he spoke about, he knew where he came from, number one, and he knew who he was speaking about, number two. He knew who he was, number three. And so when Jesus began to speak, the people said, by what authority does this man, how can he speak with such authority? And yet the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, when they speak, they look to one another to see, is it true what I'm saying? They look for confirmation. But this man, when he speaks with such authority. You know why? Because he knows what voice he's following. I only do what I see the Father do. Isn't that what Jesus said? So the principle is the same. I only do what I see the Father do. So Clay has no other what my Father does. That's why he was so scared to be committed, because he gonna do what he saw his Father do. Okay. Hold on, let me get into this. let me get into this. You know, there's another aspect I wanted to play as well on that clip, because I think it's very powerful. This part here, I felt for him. You know, I felt for him. And again, I'm not blaming him. I'm only saying what's happening. I felt for him. Listen to this very carefully. Listen to what he's had to go through. This is why, I do have so much empathy for Clay, because I want you to listen to what he's actually going through. And he's not free from what he did, but the reality is he didn't go through the marriage. He didn't force AD into a marriage. AD decided to stick in something that she wanted to do. Okay? All right? Listen, look what's going to happen here.
I've forgiven my ex-husband, and I have forgave Clay, you know, for not sharing it with me, because sometimes you think, why didn't you tell me? But I also know trauma hits everyone differently.
Let's pause it right there. Do you know how, and I'm not blaming the mum. The mum is telling the truth. But do you know how it feels? I don't know how it feels. I can only imagine to be a son of the mother you love. You had to keep a secret for your dad because it's called, it's what you call split loyalty. You had to keep a secret for your dad, and then your mum has to now forgive you because you kept a secret against her. Do you know how much weight that puts on a young child's neck? Do you know the kind of guilt that he's probably had to carry the rest of his life up until this point? That he doesn't want to hurt his mum, but either way, it doesn't make a difference. Doesn't want to hurt his mum and hurt his dad, but either way, in the end, he's still getting blamed. Even, I'm not saying the mum was blaming him now, but she said she had to get to a point and forgive him. Do you know how painful that is? That you are the child in that situation. So it's not that I'm trying to give him a pass, it's that I'm trying to understand it now. The same way I'm trying to understand AD and where she comes from. This is painful. To be in such a situation and have your loyalties in two different places. Your dad is to blame because he put you in that situation. Your dad is bad for what he did. And he has his reasons. But his sins have visited you. And now you're dealing with the consequences to the point that even the person that you love and who has taken care of you and loves you has to even forgive you. Kai, I wouldn't want to be in that situation. If it was me, I wouldn't want to be in that situation. But let's continue because I want to go on. Okay? I want to go on. I also want to make this point. Okay? There's the reason why Clay would have not been a good partner for AD is because he had no voice. One day, my dad told me something. He said, I remember he told me this. He said, I had a girlfriend at the time, and he said, at the end of the relationship, he was like, let me tell you something, son. You wasn't ready for her. And I was like, wait, what? Come on, man. I was ready. What you talking about, bro? He said, he wasn't ready for her because you hadn't come into being a man. He said, listen, when you finally get your money in order the way you want it to be, when you start going on the path that you believe you're called to go on to, when you start going on the work you're supposed to do, that you're called to, when you go after the dream that you know that you're supposed to go after, at that point, then you can be a man. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I just know that you wasn't a man at that point in time. Trust me. And that sat with me for a few years. Then recently I had a conversation with him a few months ago. And I said to him, Dad, I finally get it. I finally get it. I know what you mean by I wasn't a man. Because at that point when I was in that relationship, I had no voice. And I had no direction. And so whilst I may have some tenets and understanding how a husband can be, parts of my leadership would have been very frail and would have caused so much destruction in the relationship. Because I would have not been able to be strong. See, a man going out there and having a vision, he's unwavered and unmoved. The Bible says that Adam was told to tend to the garden. Do you know what Adam didn't go and do? Go elsewhere. Do you know what Adam didn't go and do? Do something else. What did Adam end up doing? Tending to the garden. Because when a man has a work that he's been given, he's on a path. He can only go that path. And when a woman gets involved with a man, she has the ability to remove him from the path if he does not know his path. Or I should say, distract him or pull him in another direction. The ability of a woman, and when I say a woman, something that my dad explained to me really powerfully was that when you look at Adam and Eve, you can look at it as a man and woman, but also look at it as the man and his soul. Is it not the soul that pulls a man away? Is it not the soul that leads a man to his desires and his wants and can pull him away from what God is calling him to? Is it not your soul that does that thing? Or someone could say the flesh, if you want to call it that, right? Your soul wants what it wants. And so instead of Adam protecting the soul and saying, hey, as much as you want that, that's not what we need to be, he didn't do that. He didn't protect his woman. And so they ended up going somewhere they needed to do and eating the fruit from the tree. Now, what's important about this story is this. As a man, when you are resolute because you know your path, your soul, your woman, whatever you want to call it, they can't pull you off that. They can't pull you off that path because you know where you're going. And even if they do, you'll get back on it because you know that's where you're meant to be. And so Clay being pulled left and right, him providing means nothing. What path is he on? What voice does he listen to? What is he being led by? Because whatever he's being led by, the woman that's going to follow is going to submit to that vision. And that vision is being spoken to you as you can now see it. As I said, you walk by faith and not by sight. So if he's not hearing correctly and not being able to see correctly, whatever he's walking towards and she's trying to submit to him, they're going to go the wrong direction. It's going to cause issues. So he didn't have that ability. That's why he said, you lead the relationship. The brother told us, he told her to lead the relationship. Let me see if I can get a clip up. Of him talking that way. I want to see if I can get that clip. Yes, here it is. I think I got the clip. I hope I got the right clip. Let me see. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Let me show you this, guys. Okay. Let's look at this part here.
And I would say that this is the one time where it's like, relationships is not something I'm good at leading. And that's why I've been asking for your assistance of like, hey, help me out. I'm not confident that I could be a husband. I'm a guy that has to lead on confidence. During the season, a lot of people felt as though that I joined the show.
Now listen, to tell that he's not a leader on relationships means that now what's going to happen is you're going to be struggling in direction in terms of where we're going. And that's going to be a problem because that's going to cause instability. That's going to cause, it's going to cause safety issues. It's going to cause a person to be scared. When a man gets into a place where he knows where he's going and he knows how to tend to a relationship, the relationship is different because he's able to nurture the person in the relationship. The Bible says that the man is the head and the woman is the body, right? And he says that Christ is the head and we are the body. And the head's job is to eat correctly so the body can be healthy. The job of the head is to eat correctly so that the body can be healthy. But if you're a head and you don't know how to eat correctly, the body will also suffer. And when the body suffers, we all suffer. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you, right? So going back to my points, because I've got last few minutes. I haven't even been able to finish my points, but let me get my last points. Okay. Let me get to this point. Yes, so obviously, unfortunately, Clay was neglected as a child. His father didn't. His father still didn't affect him. Didn't apologize till this day. His father came to the wedding, made it about himself. The father took him on trips to see other women and made him keep secrets and made him split his loyalty between his mother and his father. He was emotionally neglected. Okay, he was emotionally neglected. Okay, and that is a big problem. Now I want to go to my final point about emotional connection because this is really important. Okay. It's really important. I'm going to go back to my screen as well. Okay, so we can go into this. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. That note was off, but don't worry about that. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Oh, yeah. All right, cool. So emotional connection, like I said before, emotional connection must be able to identify your own emotions and how you feel, articulate your needs, wants, and values. And one needs emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Again, I'll put the link in the chat for the article that I used to break some of this stuff down and quote from. Shout out to them as well. Yes, emotionally abused him. You're right. Sorry. Yes, neglect was end up abusive as well. Absolutely. And so so here we go. Emotional connection to self. One needs to be connected to self, right? And the reason why is because that's the base. And when you are not connected to self, people are going to connect to your facade. Okay, all right. So when you when a person starts to feel like they're neglected in a relationship, it's because oftentimes they are connecting with a facade. the story, the narrative. So the emotional disconnect leads to sex. Okay, here we go. So AD and Clay, we know that obviously they had a good sex life because they were talking about it. Like, you know, sex is amazing, it's good, it's great, right? But the emotional connection part is the biggest part, right? Here it is. Emotional disconnect leads to sex because it is easier to express profound feelings in sex, and my spelling's off, than words. It is easier to express profound feelings in sex than it is in words, because you are acting on how you feel, not necessarily saying how you feel. And oftentimes, even how you feel in this aspect needs to be deciphered, and it needs to be discerned, and it needs to be broken down. Sex oftentimes becomes a cover-up for those feelings, or the lack of ability to be able to express those feelings or be able to connect. Your body passively communicates desire, needs, wants, and values through sex, but it does not explicitly expand upon those things. So you can feel desired, you can feel needed, you can feel like you have wants, and you can have values, but it will not be explicitly expressed to the other party. In fact, you are asking the other party to read your mind through sex as to what you desire, what you need, what you want, and what you value. And sex is a very poor way of expressing those particular things. People use sex as a way of connecting emotionally because it brings a temporary high, right? And so they use a sexual connectivity rather than an emotional connectivity to connect to their partner, because that creates the high. This is why relationships look like they're fizzling out. They're fizzling out because you are connecting sexually and not emotionally. Sex is a part of the glue, but it's not the only thing it's not what anchors a relationship. Hence why you can be so excited. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I know, yeah, I want you. Ooh. Yes, sex can be part of that, because it creates the dopamine, the serotonin, and the oxytocin as chemicals that are released during sex, especially if the sex is good. Especially if you climaxing, you're in trouble. You're gonna have a release. But it can't replace the emotional connectivity. And do you know what's happening? Let me tell you this now. I realized something. In all my relationships, it got to a point when the relationship's about to come to an end. My body knows it's coming to an end. My mind, my body, my soul, it knows. Yeah? And my body will tell me the relationship's coming to an end. And do you know what would happen? I stopped having sex with my partner. It's wild. I was deep in it the other day, and I was like, oh my God. It's happening in every relationship. When I know the relationship's coming to an end, I stop having sex. And what that really means is I was never really emotionally connecting. And I was like, yo, do you know why? Because I was never emotionally connected to myself. Sorry, exes and partners, I do apologize. You guys got the worst of me. I do apologize. I'm sorry for that. Right? But I thought, you know, because I'm emotionally expressive, I'm emotional. No. Just because you're emotionally expressive does not mean you're emotionally connected. The two are different. And so when I took away sex off the table, I'm like, why am I in this relationship? No, for real. Why am I in this relationship? No, for real. Why am I in this relationship? And it's because what had happened is the ride had come to an end. Because the ride was based on the sex. And so that roller coaster emotional feeling that I was getting, that high, that drug I was feeling, was coming from the fact that the release of serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine are being released in sex. And after a while, that high can't be matched anymore. And so what happens? Once that high is done, that drug is done, you discard. The thing that's going to keep you in a relationship isn't the sex, it's the emotional connectivity. And I'm going to run through the 12 again, real quick. Okay? I'm going to run through it again. All right? Because what we're talking about is, and this is one of my points I didn't even make as well, about, you know, Clay inability to be able to connect emotionally leads to commitment issues. The brother said he's a rock star he's a rock star turning monogamous. And what that really means is I got commitment issues. Okay. Okay? Your trauma can allow you to be a great superstar in the career world, but it doesn't mean you're going to have great relationships. If you don't work on it, I promise you it's going to be a problem. Let me go to my final points, because you know what? I want to end on this last note because I think it's a good point to end on. Okay? All right? My 12 points of emotional connectivity. Number 1, care about the other's needs and desires. You want them to be happy and you want their desires to be met. You want them to get what they request in life. Number 1 is this. If a person really is emotionally connected to you, this is where we're going to talk about some real stuff now. Is your partner emotionally connected to you? Here's the questions you need to be asking yourself. If they're really truthfully emotionally connected to you, number 1 is they care about others' needs. They care about your needs and your desires. They want to see you happy and they want your desires to be met. They're not jealous. They're not in competition. They're not trying to beat you. They want to see what you requested in life. Number 2, they share openly your emotions. Okay? So you're able to share openly your emotions. You're able to speak freely and you don't have to hold back. You don't have to feel like, you know what, I don't want to say this because if I say it, they won't be able to comprehend, or they won't be able to understand, or they won't listen to me. Right? You can be open about how you share your feelings, your dreams, your goals, your beliefs, and your values. Can you do that? Number 3, you listen actively and hear each other out. You create a safe space for their concerns. You divert your full attention to them. This is another piece. Some of you are really bad at this. When someone's talking, you're on your phone. It's my pet peeve. I can't lie to you. It makes me sick. It makes me angry. But when you're talking to somebody and they're on their phone, are you all right? Or they're now starting to wash the dishes, or they're now coming to clean the living room, or they're now coming you're doing something else. The person is telling you something. Can you focus? Can you focus? Body language to show you they're listening, you know? Their eyes are on you. They're nodding their head. They're doing non-verbal. They're doing the verbal cues. I hear you. Oh, so you mean this? Okay. Right? Because when you don't feel heard, it leads to shame and abandonment and distancing. Active listening makes people feel heard. Number 4, you know each other deeply. Now, do you know the part I didn't get to? Let me just spend a bit of time here. I'm going to go over the time. Okay? Number 4, which I was meant to come to earlier on, I didn't go to it. Number 4, I apologize. Number 11, number 4, and number 7 are the con game of every man. Sorry, not every man. Number 4, number 7, and 11 are the con game of a man making a woman a rehabilitation center. A lot of women believe the man loves them and cares about them and is emotionally connected to them because they do number 7, number 4, and number 11. Right? Number 4 is one of the biggest ones that women get caught up on. Number 4 is this. You know each other deeply. No. He is giving you his deepness. He doesn't know you deeply. He's giving you all the depths of him. It's not being returned. See, the emotionally devoid individual doesn't open up a space for you to return how you feel. So they will share everything with you. Right? So you know all about them and every little secret, every little detail, every depth of that person. But they won't know you that way. Now, there's a reverse, which is when you have a healing spirit, but you're emotionally broken, which is me. When you're the reverse, when you've got a healing spirit, you do the absolute opposite. You let other people share their whole entire life with you. You don't give back to them. You see it? So the reverse happens because I've got the quote unquote, I call it a healing spirit. Your gift is to heal people. But when you're emotionally broken and you don't know how to connect yourself emotionally, what will happen is, quote unquote, some empaths, I'm an empath. And I find myself in a situation where people abuse me. No, because what you don't realize is you are conning yourself. You find yourself, for me personally, taking in everything you've said, but I'll never give back to you. It's a trust issue, right? But oftentimes it's the reverse. Men will give you everything they have, but they'll never ask you anything back. So you'll realize they're deep with you, but they're not deep. You're not deep with them because they're not allowing you space to be deep. And sometimes people will think, oh, because he shared these deep things with me. Yeah, but the rest of the emotional connection, what about that? He's not interested in your hobbies. He doesn't care what you do, right? He doesn't care about your little day-to-days. He doesn't care about solving issues when you guys conflict. He's only about himself. He doesn't care about your experiences. He's not 50-50 in effort. Or 100-100, somebody said. Right? You know, you're not able to share your emotions. They don't care about your needs and desires. That's precisely it. They are unloading, not taking on your concerns. And so that's why number 4 gets a lot of women messed up. Someone like AD, because he shared so much of me. As we heard Clay say, she basically saved me. But the reality is, no, she became a rehabilitation center because you unloaded every clip you had in your body and you gave it to her. So now what does woman do? Oh my God, he loves me. He cares about me. But you then realize after a while, you're not emotionally connected in a relationship. You're not connected in a relationship. Yeah? Because obviously once you share deep things with somebody, it leads to mutual trust, respect, and deep understanding. You know how I know someone cares about me now? Mutuality. One day I was thinking about, I was thinking about something and I was like, in some relationships, I played the counselor role. And then eventually, you know, when you meet somebody that wants to also be invested in you as much as you're invested in them, then you find out that connection is different. Mutuality. It leads to trust, respect, and a deep understanding. Okay, that's connection. Number 5, they are interested in the hobbies, in your hobbies. And it doesn't mean the ones that they like, they're interested in the hobbies that you don't even like. And when I say interested, they're happy to spend time with you doing that hobby, even if they don't necessarily like it. Why? Because they like you. Why? Because they like your time. I found myself in a position, and I was talking about this every time. I found myself in a position where some women are like, they'll go to the shop and I don't want to go. I don't want to go, darling. I don't want to go to the shop with ya. I don't want to go shopping with ya. I don't want to spend time with ya. Yeah? And it's because I was not emotionally connected to these women. And listen, don't get it twisted. Of course, there's some things you're just not going to like, right? But when I found somebody that I actually emotionally connected with, I didn't mind going to the shop, you know. Like, you want to go to shopping? All right, let's go. You want to try some dresses? Okay, let's go. Yeah, I'm down. You want to spend an hour or 2 together? We're going to shop. You're going to shop. You want to buy some clothes? You're going to go into the changing room and change over? I don't mind. Yeah, let's go. Because I was invested in that person and the connection I had with that person that I started to care. Even if I don't necessarily like the shopping, I like you. I like who you are. So I don't mind spending time with you in that place. Okay? All right. And it's a form of, this is a way of seeing the person as well. All the little details of emotional connection, meaning you know their preferences, what food they like, what they like to do, the little thing, you know, the little things day by day, you know, like if I'm emotionally connected to the person, I start to learn their preferences, what they don't and don't like, what they love and what they don't love, you know, what intrigues them, what doesn't intrigue them, what motivates them, what doesn't motivate them. I start to learn these things because I am now invested emotionally to you. So those little details, they mean a lot because the little details become big. Right? Now, when I was younger, as someone said, I didn't pay attention. I didn't store that information. I wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been me because it wasn't important to me. So that little detail, I don't care about it. Don't mean nothing. All right? Or them explaining details of their life and their daily. You know, your partner come and telling you about how was your day? And they tell you a story. Like something that's beautiful, especially women. I can say this. Women have a very beautiful way of telling you about their day. Sometimes I don't even, I'm just intrigued by listening to their story. Like, you know what? Let me just hear how was your day? And they will go, women are so beautiful. Like, they are amazing, personally. You know, I don't know about you, but I know about me. Okay. All right. Some of the women that I'm encountering, shout out to them. Okay. And so you ask them, how's your day gone? Like, how was your day really gone? What happened? And they might start off with like, it was okay. And I'll be like, just okay, why, what happened? Nothing much. And you'll be like, nothing much. What does that actually mean? Oh, well, you know, the next half an hour they're talking, right? And beforehand, I don't really care about it. But as I've grown to be more emotionally connected to myself, I started realizing how beautiful that is. That when you're talking to somebody, they tell you about their day. You know what I'm saying to you? They tell you about the little things that happen in their day. Someone says a toxic drawer to draw you in. But you know what I'm saying to you, right? It's nice when you like the person. When you don't like the person, you don't want to hear nothing about their day. And when you're not emotionally connected to that person, you don't want to hear nothing about their day. You don't care about the little details. Do you know why you're not? You know what I'm saying to you? You don't call them, you don't message them, you don't tell them. You don't care. You don't. You know? You don't. You know, so those little details make up very big details, because when it comes to the big things, you're going to start to realize you're not going to want to tell that person nothing. You know why? Because the little details didn't matter, and a roof doesn't cave in overnight. So today you might tell them a big thing, but tomorrow, that's it. I remember one time, it's going to get dark real quick. I remember one time when I was trying to jailbreak somebody out of a relationship. This is years ago. Yeah. I was trying to jailbreak somebody out of a relationship. Okay. And, one of the things that I remember doing, and it's purposeful, it was very calculated, very manipulative, but it's very calculated, is the little details. So I'd pay attention to the little details. I was being manipulative at this point, by the way, so this is different. So if you did your hair different, or there's a different perfume or scent on you, or I see that you change your lipstick color, or, you're wearing a different dress today. I'm like, oh, have you got money? I'll pay attention to all the little details. Then I'll be asking about, how was your day? How was your day? I'll be like, oh, how was your day? Talk to me about your day. And they'll be like, oh, nothing really happened. I'm like, what? You can't tell me. Okay, so tell me, all right, start from the beginning. What actually happened? How did your day start? And they'll be like, well, I don't know. I was in the bathroom and da-da-da. And I'll be like, and I'll make it bigger than it actually is. I was like, you was in the bathroom? What do you mean you was in the bathroom? Like, what happened? Like, did something happen or something? And then you spice them up. Get them gingered. Yeah? And what you realize is, because you're excited about their day, very soon the big things are coming your way. So when they graduate, or when they get a promotion, or when they win the lottery or something, I'm just being facetious. They're now coming to tell who? You. Do you know why? Because you care about the little things. Do not let someone else do that to your partner, please. I beg of you, guys. Like, don't let them do that. I'm just telling you some of the manipulative things I've done in the past. I'm changed my ways. I'm not like that anymore. I'm a grown man, and I've matured. Okay, but they now feel safe to offloading you. And a genuine relationship, you should care about the little details. A genuine emotional connection, the person cares about your details. This begins to build trust, intimacy, and familiarity. It's important. Number 7. Judgment-free zone. A space where you're being heard or seen, and you don't get it thrown back in your face due to judgment. Number 7 is another thing of those that men love to be in. The reason why men love to offload on women is because it's a judgment-free zone. Other goons are going to judge them. And so what you're going to realize is a lot of these men are going to do what I believe Clay did to AD. He ended up getting AD because AD was a judgment-free zone. I'm going to understand you. I'm going to understand where you're coming from. It's a judgment-free zone. And so what that does is, instead of the person problem solving or validating, problem solving, they are validating your problem. And so what you're going to see is AD would have been validating Clay, not solving his issue. She's not trying to solve it. It's a judgment-free zone. And when a man feels like that, they get excited. But the reality of the situation is, when a man wants to use as a rehabilitation center, this is another area that he uses you in. Because he hasn't had that. He should be in therapy. But you're therapizing him. Okay? So it's hard to be vulnerable, but a great reward is received and accepted when you have a judgment-free zone. Number 8, silver lining in conflict. I've experienced this. This is really powerful. I can't lie to you. Where you have an argument with somebody, and I remember I said this to somebody, and I was going to do a video on this. There's a silver lining to this conflict. It means that when disagreements happen, It's all about staying present to cope with the emotional flooding and respect, and keeping respect during the conflict, right? When disagreements happen, you are able to stay present and cope with the emotional flooding. What does that mean? It means when the emotions arise, you don't go into that survival mode where you're like, and you are this, and this. You don't go into attack mode, or you don't go into what I call self-preservation mode, which is, I'm so bad, I'm this, I'm that, and that, is it? Oh my God, I'm a victim, and that. You don't go into those things. You find a good, healthy balance. You stay present. I remember I had a situation with a friend. I remember I had a situation with a friend, and we had an argument. And I remember this, and I always remember this. We had an argument, and as the argument happened, I expected the person to leave the argument. I can't lie to you. I expected the girl to leave the argument, right? This is why I was on the street, so you know this is. I expected her to leave the argument. She didn't leave the argument. She stayed on the phone, and I was like, what? Because the way the argument went, I was like, I expect the person to, and in myself, my avoidant self, in my bad boy self, in my carnage self, I was expecting the person to put down the phone, and I was going to use it as, then you play your little game with that, right? It's like, well, I don't care if you put down the phone. I don't care. I'm going to go my way. I'm going to be avoidant, and I know what's going to happen. I'm going to pull you in. The person didn't do that. They didn't get off the phone. There was just silence for a good 2-3 minutes. Nobody said nothing. And then I was like, you know what? I feel bad, man. I should have done this, man. I should have tried to understand your perspective, right? And I realized, when you're beginning to emotionally connect with people, there are different ways you behave. And so when that person gave a little bit of silence and a bit of room just to be able to think, didn't get off the phone, didn't exit the conversation, I was appreciative of that, right? So there are points, and after that, they probably got me to reverse Uno. Yeah, they probably did, to be honest. But after that situation, right, whenever we had an argument, I started realizing that both of us would be like, okay, do you know what? do you know what? I don't agree with you, but I'm trying to take what you're saying to me. And it became very constructive in the conversations and the arguments that we're having, so that the impact of the argument wasn't felt as heavy. You know what I'm saying to you? So disagreements can happen, but stay present. And then confrontation isn't negative when we realize how the constructiveness of that argument has provided us solutions to future problems. I haven't put that there. Right? And so that's important. Number 9 is sympathetic to their experiences, right? They care about what happens to you, and what happens to you happens to them. Right? So the two will become a team and the same. This is very important. Being sympathetic of their experiences, they care about what happens to you, what happens to them. The two will be the same. My fate is your fate. That's emotional connection. Number 10, 50-50 partnership, or 100-100, do you want to call it? Reciprocity and equal input emotionally. It shouldn't feel like a one-way street. Strengthens a bond when both get involved. Okay? All right? And number 11, you should feel seen and understood. Have conversations. You can have a conversation with one look. You finish each other's sentences. There's synergy. You just like each other, and you just you pick out each other's sentences. You're like, I know what you're going to say before you say it, or that look, I know that look, I can interpret it. This is a part of emotional connection. And number 12 is know thyself well. Okay, what's your needs, wants, and emotions? You need emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Know what you want, desire, and be able to articulate that. All important. Okay, now the end of this situation, coming back to our original point, is about Clay and about AD. I didn't hear any much more than what AD did for him as to why they were connected. Hence why I said I don't know if I can say that AD is the love of his life, because I don't hear the connection. What I hear is parts of connection, where at that point he talks about the judgment-free zone. He talks about the details that he's been able to share. But I don't hear how there is much more of a connection than that. So, we're gonna leave it there, and we'll be back tomorrow because we got to do AD and we got to talk about healers. And I hope you guys like, share, subscribe, and you click on the bell button for notification of uploads. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Little Black.